Somewhere in Wolfsburg, there's an engineer who spent 4 years of his life on a single component in your Volkswagen. 4 years. Testing it in Arctic cold, baking it in desert heat, running it through simulations that cost more than your house. And then you bought the car and undid all of it in about 6 weeks. Not on purpose. Nobody does this on purpose. You did what felt normal, what everyone does, what your dad told you, what sounded harmless. But here's the thing about German engineering. It isn't built to survive whatever you throw at it. It's built to be exact. Every clearance, every fluid, every warm-up cycle, it's specified for a reason. And when you break the specification, the car doesn't yell at you. It doesn't warn you. It just quietly starts dying 3 years ahead of schedule. That's the cruel part. The damage never shows up when you cause it. It shows up on a Tuesday in a repair bay with a number on a screen that makes your stomach drop. So today, we're covering the 5 rules VW engineers actually follow with their own cars. Not dealership upsells. Not internet folklore, the real ones. The habits that separate a Volkswagen that dies at 90,000 miles from one that's still pulling strong at 300,000. Some of these are going to sound too small to matter. That's exactly why they cost so much. Rule number 5, the drain nobody ever cleans. A guy takes his Golf to the dealer with a problem that makes no sense. The central locking unlocks by itself overnight. The windows drop an inch for no reason. Some mornings the battery's flat. Sometimes the wipers wake up mid-drive with a dry windshield. They scan it. Fault codes everywhere. Modules that have nothing to do with each other, all screaming at once. Nothing's wrong with the electronics. The car is full of water. Not dramatically, not a flood, just a slow, quiet soak that's been happening for 2 autumns straight because of something at the base of the windshield that he's never looked at once. Underneath that plastic trim where your wipers sit, there's a chamber. Water from the windshield collects there. That's the design. That's on purpose. And drains out through channels that root it down past the firewall and onto the ground. It's elegant. It works perfectly, right up until leaves get in there. Pine needles, rotted foliage, pollen that turns into paste. It packs down into those drain channels and turns the whole chamber into a bathtub. And once that tub is full, the water has to go somewhere. So it finds the seals into the cabin, it goes down behind the dash, it soaks into the carpet under your feet, and on a lot of Volkswagens, the control module that runs your locking, your windows, your alarm, your interior electronics is sitting right there, low in the footwell. That module doesn't fail loudly. It corrodes, pin by pin, which is why the symptoms look insane and random for months before anything actually dies. And the sunroof is the same story with different pipes. Those drain tubes run down inside your A-pillars and exit near the wheels, clog one, and water pours down the inside of the pillar into the fuse box. Here's what makes this the one that genuinely bothers engineers. It's free. Open the hood, look at the plastic cowl at the bottom of the windshield, pull the leaves out with your hands. Then take a bottle of water, pour it slowly into that chamber, and go look underneath the car. If it's running out onto the ground within seconds, you're fine. If it pools and sits, you just found your problem before it cost you anything. Twice a year, spring and late autumn, 2 minutes. The tells, if you want to check right now, a damp or crunchy carpet under the front mats, windows that fog on the inside and won't clear, a musty smell when the fan comes on, or an infotainment screen that started rebooting at random. None of that is bad luck. That's water doing what water does, because a channel the size of your finger was blocked with last year's leaves. Rule number 4, the battery that dies twice. 2 winters ago, your Passat wouldn't start. You bought a battery, good brand, correct size, fit perfectly, car fired right up. This winter it's dead again, so you assume you got a bad one, or the alternator's going, or the car has a drain somewhere. You start shopping for a battery with a better warranty. The battery was never the problem. Nobody told the car you changed it. Modern Volkswagens don't just charge the battery, they manage it. There's a system in there, energy management, that keeps a running profile of the battery in your car, its capacity, its chemistry, and critically, its age. As a battery gets older, it can't take a charge the same way, so the car compensates. It raises the charging voltage. It gets more aggressive. That's how it squeezes life out of a tired battery in year 5. Now drop a brand new battery into that car without telling it. The car still thinks it's talking to a worn out 5-year-old battery, so it keeps feeding it that aggressive, high-voltage, old battery charging profile every single drive into a new battery that never needed it. You're cooking it slowly, invisibly, from the day it went in. It boils off electrolyte, it accelerates plate corrosion, and a battery that should have given you 6 or 7 years hands you 18 months and quits. Then you buy another one, fit it the same way, and do it all over again. The fix has a name: battery registration, sometimes called coding. It's a 2-minute job with a diagnostic tool, VCDS, ODIS, or plenty of the decent Bluetooth scanners now, where you tell the car a new battery is installed and enter its part number and capacity. The system wipes its old profile and starts fresh. That's it. That's the whole thing. And there's a second half to this that costs people just as much. If your car came with an AGM battery, it needs an AGM battery. A GMs and standard flooded batteries want completely different charging voltages. If your Volkswagen has start-stop, it almost certainly came with AGM, because a conventional battery physically cannot survive being drained and recharged at every red light. Fit the cheaper flooded one to save $50 on the counter, and you've bought yourself a battery that will be dead by next winter, plus a start-stop system that quits working, and a car that throws electrical faults nobody can explain. So if you're replacing it yourself, match the type exactly, match the capacity, and register it. If you're paying a shop to do it, ask them one question before they touch anything. Are you registering it to the energy management system? If they look confused, go somewhere else. The tells that you're already living with an unregistered battery, start-stop that stopped working and never came back, a battery that's on its 2nd or 3rd replacement in a car that isn't that old, or a dash that lights up with random warnings on cold mornings and clears once it's running. That's not a car with bad luck. That's a car being fed the wrong instructions every time you turn the key. Rule number 3. Lifetime fluid has a definition, and it isn't yours. Read that phrase in your manual, and your brain fills in, never needs changing. That's not what it means. It never meant that. In engineering terms, lifetime means the design life of the component, and the design life of a gearbox is not the life of the car. It's a number on a spreadsheet in a product planning meeting, usually somewhere around 150,000 kilometers, long enough to clear the warranty, long enough for the second owner. After that, the fluid has done its job as far as the document is concerned. You, meanwhile, are planning to keep this car to 300,000. So here's what's actually happening inside a DSG while you trust that word. That gearbox is not an automatic in the way you're imagining. It's 2 manual gearboxes stacked together with clutches, and the whole thing is controlled by a mechatronic unit, a hydraulic brain full of solenoids and passages with tolerances measured in microns. Every gear change is fluid being pushed through those passages at pressure, and that fluid is carrying clutch material, fine metallic dust, where particles from everyday shifting. That's normal. It's what the filter is for. But the filter fills. Once it does, the debris keeps circulating, and it starts eroding the exact micron level passages the whole system depends on. Shifts go slightly harsh, then hesitant, then it judders, pulling away from a stop. By the time you feel it, the mechatronic unit is already damaged, and that unit costs more than most people have ever spent on a car repair in their life. A wet clutch DSG wants fresh fluid and a new filter around every 60,000 kilometers. Not lifetime, 60,000. VW's own service schedule in most markets says so. It just isn't the part anyone reads. Now, the one that catches almost everybody, if you have 4Motion on a transverse VW, a Golf R, a Tiguan, an all-track, there's a Haldex coupling at the back axle. It has its own fluid, its own filter, and it is not touched by any oil change or DSG service. It sits there quietly for 100,000 kilometers while a pump full of clogged fluid tries to engage a clutch pack. Then one day, your all-wheel drive just doesn't work anymore, with no warning light, and you find out it needs a pump and a controller. That service is roughly 30,000 kilometers. It takes an hour. Most owners have never heard of it. Same story with brake fluid, which nobody thinks of as a fluid at all. It absorbs water out of the air. That's chemistry. It can't be avoided. And water lowers the boiling point. 2 years in, you can boil your brakes on one long descent and get a pedal that goes to the floor. 2 years, regardless of mileage. So the rule is simple. Anywhere someone told you a fluid is sealed for life, ask whose life. gearbox oil, Haldex, brake fluid, transfer case, differential. Every one of them is a service item on a car you intend to keep. The tells you're overdue, a shudder or jerk when crawling in traffic, a delayed thump into gear from a stop, a brake pedal that feels softer than it did last year, or all-wheel drive that used to grab and now just spins the fronts. Those aren't the car aging. That's a fluid that stopped working while you were being told it never would. Rule number 2, the oil level that went up. You check the dipstick expecting it to be low. It's above max. Most people see that and feel lucky. It's the one problem on a car that looks like good news. It isn't oil, it's fuel. Your VW has a particulate filter in the exhaust, a DPF on diesels, a GPF on every modern TSI. It traps soot and has to burn itself clean, so the engine injects extra fuel to spike exhaust temperature to around 600 degrees. That's a regeneration. It needs 15 to 20 minutes of sustained speed to finish. Now look at how you actually drive. 8 minutes to work, 10 to the school. Every trip long enough to start a Regan and too short to finish one. It starts, you park, it aborts, over and over, and that extra injected fuel washes past the rings into your sump. Drop by drop, week after week, your oil is being diluted with fuel. That's why the level rises. Fuel-diluted oil doesn't lubricate. The film protecting your bearings and turboshaft gets thinner every month. While the filter loads up with soot, it never got to burn until the car drops into limp mode and you're quoted the price of a new exhaust. The fix costs nothing. Once a week, 20 uninterrupted minutes at steady speed, revs held around 2 to 2,500. Don't switch off early, let it finish. The tells, a dipstick over max when you added nothing, a fuel smell on the stick, the fan running hard after you park, or economy that quietly got worse. And if short trips genuinely are your life, have your oil change interval and tell your shop why. Rule number 1, the gentle driving that destroys engines. You're in 6th at 1,200 revolutions per minute. Engines barely turning. Quiet, smooth, efficient. You think you're being kind to it? You're doing the single most destructive thing you can do to a small turbo engine. It's called low-speed pre-ignition, and it's the reason modern TSI engines fail in ways that look like acts of God. At low RPM under heavy load, the cylinder is packed with boost pressure and the piston is moving slowly. Conditions get so hot and dense that the mixture ignites before the spark plug fires, while the piston is still coming up. That's not combustion, that's a detonation trying to push the piston backwards down a rod that has nowhere to go. It happens in milliseconds. It can crack a piston ringland or snap a rod in a single event, and there's no warning light for it. No noise you'd notice over the radio, just an engine that was fine on Tuesday and has a hole in it on Thursday. The trigger is always the same. High load, low revs, pulling away up a hill in 3rd, overtaking without downshifting. Motorway hill in 6th with your foot buried. The fix is one habit. If you need power, take a gear. Downshift first, then accelerate. Keep it above roughly 2,000 RPM whenever you're asking for real load. Revs aren't where. The engine is designed to spin. Torque at 1,200 RPM with full boost is what kills it. And use the exact oil specification in your manual. VW 504.00, 508.00, whatever yours calls for. Those specs exist partly because the additive chemistry is formulated to suppress pre-ignition. Generic meets or exceeds oil doesn't. The tell, a faint rattle or knock under load in a high gear. That's not the fuel. That's your engine telling you it's already happening. Cowl drains, battery registration, fluids that aren't lifetime, regions that never finish, and the gear you're in when you ask for power. None of it is expensive. None of it needs a workshop. It's 5 habits, maybe 20 minutes a year, total. That's the difference between a Volkswagen that gets sold at 90,000 with a folder full of problems and one that's still running quietly at 300,000 while everyone asks how you did it. Now you know how.